I'm already not liking this podcast. This episode is brought to you by liquor. Makes you smarter and better looking.
Welcome to the first episode of the Exit 44 podcast. I'm Ty Leisher. I'm the writer-director.
My name is Ed Morrone. I am an actor, writer, and sort of producer.
My name is Eric. I edit and co-produce with these two yahoos.
And since it's the first episode, I think it's important that we start out by saying, who is Exit 44 Entertainment? We're a film production company. We have a couple of films in post-production now that we're working on. One of them is 11th Hour Cleaning, which is a horror movie that you'll hear about later.
Well, right now I'm looking at two glasses of booze at 9:30 in the morning. And I don't know about you, but I'm excited.
9:35 in the morning.
Okay, I'm 5 minutes off. So that means I'm 5 minutes late to throwing these down my stomach.
So what is the purpose of these, Eric? Do you want to give us some insight?
So I kind of figured that it would be fun to start the show off with something that is topical, right? And who doesn't enjoy a nice drink from time to time? Maybe
especially
not at 9:30 in the
this
morning.
Early in the morning, yeah.
Sunday, but... So I would have brought scotch, but I'm out of scotch. So
we're all married, so we have excuses.
So I found these 2 bottles of tequila in the house, which I'm not the biggest fan of tequila, but this one of them here has been pretty good. It's been a sipping tequila. But anyway, so we're going to do a little taste test, especially since Ty doesn't drink much. It'll be a good one.
Ty doesn't drink at all. For the fans at home, I don't drink at all.
I've seen him drink a beer. So we have Jose Cuervo Especial, which I presume is the standard fare, and it just says
what glass
blue
is that?
agave
Again,
with
look.
a red. What, is there another bug in your glass?
There's another bug in my glass.
Maybe it's the bugs in the air that keep dropping into your glass.
Can you
switch
send
me?
Can
Just
you
give it
send
to
this
me.
back?
Just give it to
Can
me.
I have
Just switch it.
I would like to talk to a manager.
I'll just drink.
Can I talk to a manager about this? This is twice before
Okay,
we
I was gonna
started this
pre-wash the
podcast.
glasses, but I figured they would have
He poured a
already
glass
been
and it
washed.
had one of these little gnat things in there. And so I had him dump it out and pour another one, and there's another gnat. Either they really like this tequila, or this glass needs to be
Which glass was it? The one on the
thrown
left
out.
or the right? Which glass was it?
the one I'm holding up.
But
My left, your right.
No, but so it was the left. So the glass on your right is the Jose Cuervo. The glass on your left is this Roca Patron.
Well, it's nothing to me because I'm not drinking it.
It's a artisanal. It says it's an artisanal tequila.
So if I
but
was
clearly this is the better one because the insects like it.
This gnat is drunk as hell, wants to go out and party.
Which
taking
if
off
I was
his
to
pants.
get him to shut up by giving him one of mine, which would I give him?
You want to give him the one on the left.
No, you
Okay.
can't skate away from having a shot of
will-
alcohol.
But the
No, I'm
one on
going
the
to drink that
I
one.
think
You're gonna
this-
drink the one with the gnat
This
in it.
Roca
I'm gonna drink the whole
Patron
thing.
is better.
What are you going to do?
Jose Cuervo.
You're going to
Yes.
stare at the gnat as
Yes.
you're trying to pour this down into your mouth?
Yes.
Who hasn't eaten a bug from time to time?
Just switch me.
Oh, maybe when you were 8.
Here.
But
I refuse. I'm sorry. I'm a goddamn adult.
did I tell you too? That's a sipping tequila, so you really don't want it. So you're gonna have to stare at the bug the whole time.
I'm not going to drink the whole thing. I'm going to take a sip and hate it because I don't drink ever.
Okay, fine. Well, then I think you should do the Jose Cuervo first because that stuff is not easy.
Oh, good. That's what I should start with. All right, so we're tasting this.
Okay.
This is the cheap one, right? This is the bad one?
Yeah.
Or this is the...
Well, some people might not call Jose. They might not want to call it bad, but I would say it's your standard,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
let's try that.
Okay.
Cheers.
Oh, that was terrible. That was awful.
Yeah, it's
pretty
just
good.
that. Which one, Jose?
I think that's what I had, or I may have had the other one by mistake, the Patron. That's not bad at all.
Ed, what?
So
I see no appeal in any of this.
tequila's rough.
You will in about 5 minutes. That's the whole point. That's why this stuff is made and put in bottles.
It tastes like spray paint to me.
But this other stuff here, this Roca Patron, if you smell it, it doesn't smell nearly as harsh, and it's got a sweeter flavor. You can actually
I
drink
think that's
it
what
without
I
feeling
drank.
like your gut's gonna rot out.
I think that's what I had.
Okay, let's try that one.
Checking no bugs, and we're
Oh
done.
yeah, it doesn't have that harshness. It's
certainly not
smooth-
as bad.
No, it's got a smoother finish. It doesn't have that tequila. You're on fire.
I drank that one first by mistake.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, smoother though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
much. It tastes better. There's actually flavor in there.
Yeah, you
wanna
can.
drink
As opposed to Aquanet.
Right.
Would you like to drink the rest of the bug one?
No.
We can-
There's a
filter the
reason
bug
why
out.
I didn't want to drink that in the first place.
You seem like you were a fan.
That reason still stands.
Okay, but it sounds like we all enjoyed the Roca.
Yes.
That, right?
From a standpoint of I don't drink and I hated them both, I enjoyed the Roca more.
Excellent.
So I wanted to congratulate all of you guys because I know this is a super small accomplishment, but we reached 20,000 views on Stranded, our short film, which is an accomplishment.
You want to say that out loud to the public?
Yes.
Little girls who show off unbox stuff have more views than we do.
Look, I'm excited and proud that something that we did is getting views.
I was in Hawaii not too long ago, and there was this mom and this little girl, and this little girl was walking around with the camera. She must have been, I don't know, 8 years old, and they're filming the sea turtle that's kind of stranded as the tide went out, and the mother looks over to us and goes, "She has a YouTube channel. You should subscribe." And I went, "Oh my God, effing Jesus Christ! Your kid's 8."
She's probably got no subscribers.
She's got more subscribers than us.
That's probably true.
And more views per episode than we'll ever have.
Well,
I haven't even looked at them.
That's a very good reason for people who are listening to go to our YouTube and subscribe and watch our watch our videos.
Well, so the question I have though, because I don't follow the YouTubes, is is 20,000, like, what's the average? Like, if you were to take the whole if you do the whole bell-shaped curve and you throw out the outliers, right, the people that have huge amounts of likes and follows and whatever, and then what's the average, like, per video?
It's like nothing.
It's weird because YouTube doesn't necessarily throw at you videos that have small view counts.
That's true.
You know, they'll always throw at you videos that have 100,000 or more. Which in my experience.
So Stranded has started to get featured more in that sidebar.
Okay.
Right, which is why we're getting the views that we're getting. We're not promoting it at all. We're getting them because we're getting featured there.
Are they going to talk about the goddamn radiator hose anymore?
Yeah.
Why don't you explain
that is the biggest remark, the biggest comment on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen my rant about this on Slack, but not every comment, most of the comments on YouTube are, how would the radiator hose stop the car from starting? Which is a very valid point. Yeah. That wouldn't stop it. But that's what's in the movie, and everyone complains about that.
Yeah, well, we've had our sidebar conversation about the logic of why things happen, and sometimes you have no choice but to have to get into the technical side of certain things, like how do cars work, just so you have something that's believable.
I have a new name for our company, Radiator Hose Productions. Go screw yourself.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was editing this short, I was just like, this is dumb, but that was the footage.
The short was dumb, or the
no, but the radiator hose.
I was gonna
right?
say,
and I mean, I think as it was, I tried to make that moment as long as possible because your character reaches in and, hey, look, I found it, and you're all fixed. But if it's already been shot that way, then that's how it's been shot. So
it's one of those things where
you got.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, criticism always comes into play whenever you put something out there, and it's just a matter of can you handle the criticism and don't let it get to you, but use it constructively as a way to be better and get better instead of, getting angry about it. Because I know that used to anger me all the time when I used to get criticized for anything like a performance or anything that I've done in the past. And after a while, you just get thicker skin and you just tell everybody to go screw themselves. If they don't like it, don't watch it. But at the same time,
you got to be. I think
you got to look at it and go, well, maybe I am doing something wrong, and maybe there is something I can do to do better,
next time,
and be better.
I mean, from a standpoint of like, what did we learn from that thing? We learned that you have to do your research and you have to be authentic and you have to make sure that the logic plays. So, like, I don't respond negatively. I don't block the comments on YouTube. I just say, yeah, that's a good complaint. Thank you for noting that. Like the rest of every other comment.
Yeah. You know what we could do, actually? It just dawned on me. We could just dub a new line in there, because I think do you say that off camera?
I think it's on camera, but we're at the point now where.
Well, no, I think my head is pointing, and this is a good point to the podcast. We're trying to fix things to make them better, but I think my head was pointing down into the engine when I said that. I don't think I looked.
I think so, because we could overdub that, and instead of saying it's radio hose, we can be like, oh hey, I found a wire that had fallen off. Or
like
something.
The distributor cap or something.
Well, that car wouldn't have that. Right?
Really?
Because
God, I'm old.
Exactly. So, but what you could say instead is that I saw a wire that was unplugged, and so you could dub that in, and
we can go
that would be worth trying. We actually should do it.
But I mean, like,
and then see.
We don't really have much to. That's something that we should have done in the beginning.
Of course.
now I don't really see the point in going back and changing it, because we would have to take the video down, re-upload a new video, which probably isn't going to get featured anywhere. We're going to struggle to get views again. That's something that when you're making a film, like that's what we learned from doing that film, was that you have to make sure that the logic makes sense, and you have to make sure that if it's a technical thing, audiences are going to call you on that technical thing. Whether that's, if you're making a movie where somebody blasts off into space and you don't use the correct,
physics.
Yeah, physics.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be
the
as
science
close
is
as
there.
you can. I mean, I mean, I think it's not a documentary, right? So you can't be 100% accurate because it's a story. But you can't be like, oh, they're using their ion engines. You know, ion engines don't produce much.
There's always going to be
thrust.
people like that, though. There's always going to be people in that spectrum that are always going to be hypercritical of anything that gets put out there. It doesn't matter. You see movies out, today that the Marvel stuff. The people in tights running around shooting fireballs at each other. I don't watch that stuff, but it's it makes millions and millions of dollars. But then you have those forums or those chat rooms where people do nothing but complain all day about that. I mean, what are you going to do with that?
An Iron Man in episode comic number 724, he actually, though cannons don't work that way, so they did that wrong in movies. Like,
but that's not a real thing anyway. What are you going to do at the end of the day? What are you going to do? Yeah. So we made a minor detail error. Live with it. I mean, not in a way where I don't want to sound mean or cruel, but but a lot goes into making stuff. At one point, you're going to make mistakes, and you hope that those mistakes are minor.
But it is, I guess, the other takeaway from that is that it's interesting if that took people out. That's something to think about in the future, because if they are taken out, then they're not focusing on the story anymore. They're like, this is dumb. What else is going to be dumb? Yeah. And then they move along. I mean, there's no control over that because somebody's going to find some fault with it. But you want to try to head those off at the pass.
But I mean, even like the whole Marvel thing and everything, if people are willing to go onto a forum and discuss the movie in some capacity, even if it's this science was wrong, I mean, that's still, as long as number one, as long as the main audience enjoys it, then they enjoyed it. Like that's fine. Yeah. But the fact that they're willing to go onto a forum and talk about this stuff means that they're so invested in the movie.
Yeah, you got them.
Yeah. And that's what you want to have happen. But I mean, in hindsight, like, it would have been nice to, we fixed that line. But
I mean, look at the movie The Room.
Yeah. Yeah.
8 gazillion inconsistencies and
it's true, and it's
crazy, ridiculous stuff. And it's a darling of the independent film industry. Yeah. Or was at one point. They remade the movie with F and James Franco, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And it was nominated for like a Golden Globe or something, or won the Golden Globe, didn't it?
No, come on now.
It won something.
I think it won something, yeah.
Franco won something because he brought Tommy Wiseau up on stage. But I mean, that was the first short that we did, and so I'm kind of proud that that's that's getting some views and some traction. We're gonna start pushing it more, and so if you haven't seen it yet, you can go look at the show notes, or you can go to our website exit44ent.com and watch it there.
Find out what happens to the radiator hose.
We would love you to get on YouTube and complain about the radiator hose. That'd be wonderful.
Please do.
Or maybe find something you could compliment.
Yeah, yeah. Compliments are encouraged. But from our first short to our first feature, 11th Hour Cleaning is a horror film that we're producing that we shot in 2017, end of 2017.
Very end.
Yeah, very end.
So 2018.
Yeah, really 2018. We've been in post on it for a little while. We're getting super close to being done. And I just wanted to point out, we're in the 11th Hour Cleaning murder house right now. That's where we're recording it. Which is,
I'm scared.
Yeah, I'm super scared. I have to live in this house. So for people that are listening that don't know, the 11th Hour Cleaning was a horror film that we shot almost entirely in my house.
Due to budget constraints?
Yeah, because that's what you do when you're an indie filmmaker. You use whatever location you can. And we'll get into that later when we're talking about Ashes to Ashes. But living in that space for that long was, like, it got to me. I hit a depression because of it, I think. I think that's what kind of triggered me. Mostly because, like, I had to go to sleep in the bedroom that's covered with blood covering the wall.
Yeah, that's right.
And, like, I had to sleep there.
Should have vlogged that.
But we should have, yeah. We got a ton of behind-the-scenes stuff that we'll be releasing at some point, whether on YouTube or on the DVD or whatever. But 11th Hour Cleaning, if you want to learn more about it, we've got a link in the show notes to our bloodydisgusting.com announcement, which kind of outlines it pretty well, and I think also contributes to why Stranded is getting so many views, because they embedded it in that on the website, which is a pretty big website. Yeah. So, and I mean, like that article doesn't get any views, but I think because it's linked there, I think YouTube is like, oh shit, this is a good. Yeah. This is a reputable site.
Is that how it works?
I don't know.
I think the more links to things at least at one point, I believe the more links you had to content of yours, it counted in the search results.
Yeah.
At least for Google itself. And then in regarding the feature, everyone will be hearing more about it soon, since we're almost done cutting in the additional photography we did a couple months ago. So once that's done and we finally decide to lock the picture, then we have a whole bunch more we'll start to talk about on social media.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll also probably do a couple episodes where we deep dive into some things, why we did the additional photography, what we accomplished with that, what we would have done differently, that kind of stuff. Something I've been doing recently on Instagram is deep diving into like bullets and previous stuff, and posting a still from the film and saying, this, what I would have done differently had I shot this differently. And so I think doing more of that is something that we should probably do. But if you want to see more updates between podcasts, you can check us out on YouTube, Exit 44 Entertainment, or you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram. It's Exit44ENT. So while we're in post on 11th Hour Cleaning, we decided that we wanted to make a short film that kind of featured a character that Ed came up with, that was in a pilot that didn't get any kind of real traction yet. And so we wanted to spin that off into a short. And so Ed and I came up with this concept for a film called Ashes to Ashes, which we're going into production on in like 50 days, something like that. And it's a 15-minute short film. We're finishing up the script next week, and then we're going to be jumping into pre-production and all that. But it's begins. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty tight story, and I think if you want to follow along with that, our social media is the place to follow that, our YouTube. Because we'll be I posted a ton about that on Twitter already. So, but the main topic for today that we didn't tease earlier, but we should have, was the recent announcement of the death of Ultraviolet and the upstart to all these different streaming channels.
Tell people what Ultraviolet is.
What is? I don't even know what it is. So this is going to be fun for me.
So, Eric, do you want to touch on? I'll give my interpretation of what Ultraviolet was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So Ultraviolet was kind of a digital locker for movies. You bought, instead of buying a DVD of a movie, you would buy the Ultraviolet version, and then you would own it, but it would be on the Ultraviolet platform. And then in order to watch it, you would have to go to that Ultraviolet platform. But you would always have access to it. It was kind of like having a digital library of your DVDs, but digitally. It's kind of what iTunes is, though, which is kind of why I think one of the reasons why it died.
Well, we're going to get more into the whole history of it, and I think sort of why the whole DRM thing is still a bit of a debacle. But Ultraviolet, what was so interesting about Ultraviolet was the fact that, so when iTunes launched and you'd buy music, they had DRM, right? So you couldn't just copy. Like you had to purchase the music, you had to play it on an Apple device or Windows device with iTunes because of the digital rights management. You just couldn't put that wherever you wanted. And then a couple years into it, I guess Apple reached a agreement with the music publishers, and then the DRM went away. So now when you downloaded that piece of that music track, you could play it wherever you wanted it. In the case of films and television, DRM has been applied to those as well. Now, the problem with the DRM over the time was the fact that everybody has their own way of doing it. So Apple had their platform for how they secure that content. Microsoft had theirs, and then probably Yahoo had theirs. Like everybody decided to do it their own way. So what was great about Ultraviolet is that it was backed by the studios. I'm looking here on the webpage to see if they still have any information about it. But what was so great about it, in theory, was the fact that if the studios were backing a consistent platform for DRM, you should be pretty safe to then feel like, okay, if I bought my movies through the Ultraviolet platform, then they're not going anywhere, right? Because it's backed by whatever, Paramount and this company, that company. And Ultraviolet was sort of the back end. So if you use things like Flickster, and I think Walmart's Vudu, those all utilized Ultraviolet. And so you're thinking, okay, great. If the studios back it, we should be safe. And so hearing about this news, the fact that they're shutting it down, and of course, when you look at their website here, they're talking about how make sure you connect your Ultraviolet account to other retailers to make sure that your movies you've purchased get credited, as it were, to your account, so that you don't lose what you've bought. But then there's sort of a caveat that says, we will do everything possible to make sure that all of your purchases transition over.
Wait, so there's a chance that people purchase this stuff and now they're going to lose it and go out of money? They're going to have to go back into the market and purchase it again?
Maybe, yeah. So if for some reason, if there was some film that you had purchased through Ultraviolet that will say that the studio that owns it, if they don't have that in their online catalog, that might just vanish out of your library, and whether you get it back or not. Disney had done that with Star Wars. If you had, and we'll get more into the movies anywhere, but if you had I think it was Star Wars A New Hope, the very first one, if you bought it on certain platforms, it would not appear on your Vudu account. If you bought it there, but it would apply. But you'd see it in your Disney movies anywhere, and that was some licensing deal with Fox. But I would talk more about the pros and cons of that. But long story short, with
if
Ultraviolet,
you had Butt Blasters 2000 and it was on Ultraviolet, guess what?
You might lose it.
You're gonna have to.
You got to buy it again. I think that and this kind of ties into the other topic of movies anywhere and streaming services, because everybody is starting up their own streaming service nowadays. Disney's starting their own, CBS has their own, and we're returning back to a time where you have to buy everything, buy the Disney Channel, but the online version
it's
of
called
it.
cable.
Yeah, that's what we're kind of.
It's another version of cable, and then someone's gonna come in and buy up all these and put them together, and it's gonna happen all over again.
Yeah, but I think that there's two things that should kind of exist since these streaming services are owned by these bigger companies like Disney. Streaming services don't always have the movies available to watch all the time. Mm-hmm. If you go on Netflix right now, a movie that was on Netflix last month might not be there now because the deal expired. But
whomever the vendor is, whomever is supplying you this content, if you've bought it, there needs to be a mechanism in place that you will always own it, right? If you've paid money for it. Because, if you go to the store and you buy the Blu-ray, Warner Brothers isn't going to come to your house one day and take the Blu-ray out of your house, but they could potentially take that title offline if they wanted to, or in the case of something like Ultraviolet shutting down, and if there's a title that you can't get from them. And I think that there needs to be some consumer protections in place, because it's just it's the repo man, right? Somebody is taking something away from you, whether you own it or not.
You do own it, which is
no, but you don't own it, technically. If they can just say, sorry.
From a standpoint of legality, I'm sure that in the terms of service, even with DVDs, I think you're just buying the right to watch the movie whenever you want. But their terms of service are probably
nobody reads those things.
Yeah, we can take away that right whenever we want. You don't own this movie, you don't own this copy, which is why I think you can't resell. Technically, I don't think you can resell DVDs, because you don't own the DVD, you don't own the movie, you own the right to watch the movie whenever you want.
Well, and from a legal standpoint, if that's indeed how it is, that's fine. But at least at the end of the day, again, you've got a library full of DVDs, and that title is not going to go away.
True. Because
somebody decides that the platform is going to shut down. Because Microsoft had a history of that, going back 10 years or so ago, where they'd launch a music platform, then you'd buy the
Zune.
the Zune, yeah, and then they shut it down. And then, but I think at that point, Microsoft was like, "Sorry guys, it's just all going away." So, sorry.
That's screwed up.
Imagine if you would spend $1,000 worth of music, or more. It can't just go away like that. And sometimes somebody else they had, I forget it was Rhapsody or something, they encourage you to burn your music to a CD. Then you could just rip that CD again. But it's at least there was some option. But but at the end of the day, as a consumer, if this could potentially be taken away from you at any time, it opens up alternatives that the studios don't want either, which I think...
Yeah, because that helps the company line in the end when people are going out and rebuying videos.
But it
Copies they already
encourages
had.
it encourages people to
Purchase.
to keep buying DVDs or to not ever buy it and just stream it when it's on a platform that they subscribe to.
So, which is interesting then, because is it more, I mean, it might at the end of the day be beneficial, or rather the direction to go is rather than buy any content online, you simply just wait for it to show up on a streaming service.
I mean, that's...
And if it's a film you really, really like, go buy the Blu-ray version of it.
Well,
and
so
it's
long
on
as
your
you're
shelf.
already subscribed to that service. If you have
True.
to subscribe to a service just because you want to start seeing the content you already had, then you're losing money.
But think of it this way.
That's lost money.
If a Blu-ray costs $24 and this streaming service costs, because it's month to month and there's no contract, it's what, $12 for Netflix? So let's say that you really want to see this movie, it's on Netflix, it's not on any other streaming platform. You can either buy it for $24, buy the Blu-ray, or buy 1 month of Netflix, stream the movie, and stream whatever other movies you want for the whole month.
Yeah, but what if you wanted to watch it a few months down the road and then Netflix took it off its catalog?
I mean, I think that's the argument for why you want to buy it. But like I said, it encourages people to either buy the physical version or to
Well, but at the
stream it.
same time, there's a big push to get rid of the hard media, period. I mean, I think the direction, I know at least with gaming platforms with Microsoft, is they'd rather you just download it rather than buy that disc. And I think in the case of movies and television as well,
that takes the control away from the consumer.
well, exactly right. And I think that's the direction that the studios want to go with it as well, is to just not produce those Blu-rays anymore. But then what's the incentive to purchase the digital version if they shut down, if that service closes? Which,
well, people aren't really paying attention to that kind of stuff.
and it's
They just look
it's
for ease of
overly
use,
technical.
and then they're just going with it, where
Right.
they don't know that they're losing their rights. They're losing
Yeah.
their rights to ownership.
So then the interesting other side of that then is that, if this could happen to you at any time, I've purchased, when I do purchase online content for movies and whatnot, I do it all through voodoo.com. That's Walmart's, because I figured Walmart wasn't going anywhere, and it was all based on ultraviolet, which shouldn't have gone anywhere either. But I probably I've spent a few hundreds of dollars on stuff up there, and so while I'm sure it'll be fine for the near term, it does make me rethink what am I going to purchase and where am I going to purchase it from, because I also don't necessarily want a giant shelf full of Blu-rays.
Yeah.
So that then leads into other things like Plex servers and Kodi, and where are you getting that content from? Which is what the studio doesn't want you to pirate it, but yet they're also wanting you to gamble on whether or not the purchases you've made are going to be around in 10 years or more.
Yeah. But I think, long term, number one, I think studios have to stop making it so hard to legally watch content, legally buy content. Like, it shouldn't be... It's never going to get to this point, because this is America, and you can do... everybody can start a company that sells these kind of things, but it shouldn't be, I have to make a choice, and that choice is going to affect me long term.
Why wouldn't you think that couldn't happen? That absolutely could happen.
No, because
you're talking about an industry that controls everything that is made through them, and there's no there's hardly any regulation. I guess. Don't quote me on that. I'm not the smartest.
Yeah. No, but
person
what I'm saying
on
is
the
that
block. But what I'm saying is that what makes you think that can't happen?
I think it can happen on a per studio level. Like, Disney can have a place that you go and you can buy and download all of Disney stuff, and that's what the new Disney movie service is. But what I meant was that that can't exist for the industry at large, right? It can't be. There's one place that you buy movies, because every studio is different, and there's independence and whatnot. I think if there was
kind of like
one
what
place,
Spotify is doing now.
Yeah.
Spotify, you can download music onto their platform if you subscribe, but then once you don't subscribe anymore, that downloaded music is no longer, on your phone.
Right. But that's just a matter of it just wiping it from whatever folder that it got hidden on. What's interesting is when you look at the purchases of movies online is that you'd see them in your Ultraviolet library if you logged on to the Ultraviolet site. If you log into Vudu, you'd see that title. If you happen to play around with Google at all, if you go into Google Play Movies, those show up there as well. You can go to Disney Movies anywhere, and your media shows up there as well. So all these other companies all have access to whatever the catalog is that you've purchased, which is great. But who's managing that DRM, and whose DRM is it? And
who's making the money from it? Well, because the money is going to be diluted amongst all the different platforms.
Well, even if they have that worked out, the question is where is it? Because if it was Ultraviolet, if that was what that standard was, and now that's going away, what happens now? Is Google Play Movies not going to be able to access my library at large? What's going to happen with Disney Movies Anywhere? And then who is managing it at that point? Like who do I have to complain to when suddenly something vanishes? Mm-hmm. That used to be there.
Do you think as a culture we're getting to a point where we just stream everything, that there is no ownership? Like most kids nowadays, I think, growing up with Netflix, growing up with Spotify, they don't care about ownership, And the other thing is, you like a film, but there's so many more films out there. There's so many other TV shows out there that if you can't see that one film, what do you do in that situation? Do you buy it on iTunes? Do you buy it digitally? But I think from a standpoint of the culture that we're getting into, I think it's just going to be streaming. I think that's going to be the largest segment of the industry where people are watching movies.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and that's all. Obviously, that's where it currently is, and it's not going to change. But for me, the challenge that I have with streaming is that I don't think any of the vendors have made it easy to manage the things that you want to watch and that you're currently watching, right? So, I've got a really extensive library of movies and TV on my Plex server. And a lot of it is stuff that I could just currently go to Netflix and watch, but I have a copy of it on Plex because Plex really nicely manages what you're watching, where you left off, what's coming up. And so, it's all right there. When you first go into Plex, it'll show you where all of that was at. Otherwise, if you go to Netflix, that user interface just shows you nothing but thumbnails of everything that they have, and then you have to go digging around in the user interface for what you were watching and what's in your queue, and they're so busy trying to push to you the next thing they want you to watch that sometimes I just can't keep track of what I did watch. Mm-hmm. Or if I have to, or Netflix has their way of doing it, Hulu has their way of doing it, this one has their way of doing it, and I just want to be able to easily see what was I watching, where did I leave off. Now, if maybe they came up with a better tool, like how Plex does it, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. I'll just go to this central place where my queue is, and then I know where I'm at. But right now, it's messy.
They have to make something that aggregates everything into one. Like if I'm gonna pay for Netflix and Hulu and CBS and Disney and all these things, I don't want to have to remember, okay, what channel is the Orville on? Because I want to watch that.
Right. Was that Hulu or is that Amazon?
Yeah. I just want to go to the thing that I go to, like turning on your TV, and go to, your DVR and whatever. But I think, do you guys think that is this good or bad for independent filmmakers? Is this good or bad for us?
Well, right now there's a lot of platforms where you can send your content to in order to purchase from them to us, meaning not from a customer standpoint. I think that, I think coming soon that's not going to be the case, because I don't think that they're making as much money as they would hope to, or if they're making any money at all. I don't think Netflix makes any money at all. And I think I heard through the grapevine, I don't know if this grapevine is sour, but I heard that they're thinking about or might go back to actually renting content from individuals instead of purchasing them outright to save money. But I don't even know if that's true. Don't quote me on that.
I think, from what it looks like, it seems like they are pivoting into becoming their own studio and getting away from buying others' content and get it like making their own films, making their own TV shows.
They are. I mean, yeah, and they recently they joined the motion picture, the MPA or something, right?
Yeah,
I think. But Netflix, they're buying a lot of content. They're calling it their own, but they're co-producing stuff just like a studio would. So the studio might not be putting much of any money into the project, but they're going to do the distribution on it. And Netflix is doing that same thing. I mean,
right.
Not every single thing they're making, they fronted the cost of.
But I mean, I think that's a smart move for them because they have to. Because soon, if you want to watch a Marvel movie, if you want to watch a Star Wars movie, if you want to watch a Disney movie, you can't get it on Netflix. You're going to have to buy the Disney streaming service. The same thing with CBS films. Like if you want to see a CBS film, if you want to see a CBS TV show, it's got to be on CBS's platform. They're not going to sell it to the other places, which is kind of a risky move for them because
I'm not going to subscribe to CBS.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're already paying for another service, and then it comes back down to what you said, Ty, about the aggregation. I shouldn't have to remember the 12 different websites I have to log into now, whether I'm paying for them or not.
Well, there's Roku is a good way of kind of putting that all together, but you still have to go into each individual platform in order to view it. But Roku just puts everything together into one.
Yeah, well, whether it's
OS.
Roku or Apple TV, but you still you've got a one tile you click to go to CBS, one to go to this channel, one to that one, and if it was already previously rolled up into Hulu, and now you have to go to 8 different places, it
gets annoying for the consumer.
You're going to just find that you're going to certain places, and maybe that's what they want. But again, it's from the standpoint of the consumer.
Yeah. That's what they want. I'm concerned about the people who purchase stuff through Ultraviolet and potentially are going to lose their money. I mean, we're not rich. I mean, the majority of us, aren't rich. We don't have tons of money where we can just waste it away on stuff, and then not worry about whether or not we have it to use later on. I mean, a lot of people buy this stuff because every once in a while they're bored and they want to be entertained. I mean, that's what movies do. They entertain people. They take people out of their current position or how they feel that day, whether they're not feeling well, and they send them to a different world where they can forget about their lives for 90 minutes or 120 minutes. And that's the whole point. That's why we do what we do. When you take that away from them after they've already given you their money, that's a gut punch. In my eyes, I think that's a shitty move.
Oh,
but
for sure.
Is it true that they're actually, they can potentially just take it away and not the ownership, but the right to watch it whenever you want just goes away?
I believe, like Ty was saying, if you look in the terms of service, I know with computer software, it's that way. You're given a revocable right to use that piece of software. Yeah. So and I haven't read the terms of service for movies and whatnot, but I'm sure it's the same thing. You're granted a non-exclusive right to watch it within your home and not for resale or any income. And so they from a technical perspective now, if it's all online, they could yank that at any time, and they have legal grounds to do so. And it just comes back down to not being very friendly to the consumer.
Yeah.
If you're on the wrong end of that.
I think long term, we're going to get to a point where all of these changes is good for the consumer, it's good for independent filmmakers, because things will kind of balance out, and it'll get to a point where the technology is there enough, and I mean, I don't think there's ever going to be you buy a movie from Disney, you can watch it forever on Disney's platform, but Disney could go bankrupt. Like, there's nothing saying that you can't. The only thing that is definite is holding a physical disc in your hand, but people don't want that anymore. So I think that we'll get to a point where the studios are big enough that they're not gonna just close up shop and not give you your stuff. But I think that like Plex and the ability to download the movie is what is gonna save this. Because if it was that case, then like if it was that case with Ultraviolet, then people could just download the movies. It's like, oh, Ultraviolet's closing, let me just download my whole library.
Right, but all of that, but the studios everything is still got the DRM attached. So,
that's dumb.
all of it's still it all has to phone home. And I think Jobs, I note in here that Steve Jobs at one point had felt like if you want these platforms to continue, that the DRM would have to be taken away from all content for it to really work. And he accomplished that. Apple did with music, but the studios aren't going to, and that's fine. But I think the irony of it is the fact that every single thing out there, every TV show, every movie, is ultimately easy to find on the internet.
Yeah.
And you can have it within minutes without having to pay for it. And I think that the studio needs to figure out some happy medium, because they're not going to stop that piracy.
Yeah.
But they also need to be able to present it to the consumer in a way where it's you feel good that it's going to be there. I mean, I remember, so I own a copy of Skyfall, the James Bond film, right? And I think I bought it on Vudu. But I also happen to have acquired a copy of it on Plex. And so one day I went to go watch it, and for whatever reason, Vudu wasn't working well. And so the movie just kept stopping or whatever. And so I said, screw it. And I went to my Plex server and kept watching it there, and it was A-okay.
Yeah.
And that's the other side to it, is that, you know, if they're going to offer these services, the studios, they have to work all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that they'll figure it out. They have to. And I think that what Steve Jobs said about getting rid of the DRM is the way to go. People are going to pirate. I think the other assumption that the studios make, that anybody that's going to pirate it would have bought it, is false. I think if you were going to buy it, you would have bought it. If you're going to pirate it, you're going to pirate it. You know, I don't think that is a loss of a sale. And I also think that there's so much more people that buy movies legally now, that the pirate is such a small portion of it, that to keep people locked out with DRM because of that is just a mistake. Well, that's all the time that we got to discuss the SVOD and demise of Ultraviolet today, but thanks for listening to the first episode of the Exit 44 podcast. Guys, it was a pleasure. It was a nice episode.
Give us a thumbs down.
I don't think you know how the internet works.
Oh, a thumbs up.
It's all thumbs up. So tune in next time for the next episode, and we'll see you then. Well, that's all the time that we got to... Well, let me do that again.
Holy smokes.
That was good. That was a good take. Hold on.
It was a good take for you.
Yeah. It's always a good take for me. I'm always happy with it. All right.